we're being asked to write each of these equations in standard form. When I look at this first one, it's almost in standard form. The only issue is that negative on the first term. That's the only term that's not allowed to be negative. So if we multiply both sides by -1, we have 6x plus 3y equals -9, and we're in standard form because everything's in the right order. There are no fractions or decimals, and now the first term is not negative. Now the next one is actually a little tricky. I want it to be an ax plus by equals c. Well, I can see that it starts with ax. I can see that it's equal to c, and I can see that there is no y. So this actually is already in standard form. There's no improved way to do this. If you really wanted to force it, you could say 6x plus 0y equals 7, but honestly, this seems really silly. So personally, I would say it was already in standard form. The only other problem in the what to do section is this word problem. It says a media download store sells songs for $1 each and movies for $12 each. You have $60 to spend. So that's a total, and totals always catch my eye because they're often going to be a C in the standard form. But let's see if that happens this time. It says write and graph an equation that describes the items you can purchase. Okay, so let's think about this. If I buy more songs, I can't buy as many movies. And if I buy more movies, I can't buy as many songs. So it sounds like the number of songs and the number of movies are what my variables should stand for. And in fact, if I look at the graph that they've started to set up for me, I can see that they've defined X as the number of songs and Y as the number of movies. So I need to work with what they're giving me here. So if I think about that, every movie that I buy costs me $12. So 12 times the number of movies is the total amount of money I would spend on movies. Now, songs are only $1 each. So 1 times X is how much money I'm going to spend on buying songs. Well, if I add those together, that should represent the total amount of money that I have available to spend. And remember that total? We've got $60 available to spend. So we've written an equation in standard form that models the situation. But we're also asked to write. Now conveniently, both 1 and 12 divide evenly into 60. So we can use the handy x and y intercept table. So I've got x and y. I'm going to do a 0 for each. If I put the 0 in for x, I just get 12y equals 60. And dividing both sides by 12, I can see that y is 5. So if I think about what that means for a minute, if I buy absolutely no songs, then I could buy 5 movies. So I'm going to go ahead and graph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my y-intercept. Then if I put in 0 for y, I get 1x equals 60, which has already solved itself, right? That's just x equals 60. So as I'm looking at this, I'm like, I don't think I actually have 60 spaces on my x-axis. So let's see how many we do have. So it looks like we have about 23 spaces, which is clearly not 60. So if I think of 20 spaces, 20 times 3 would be 60. So if I let each box equal 3, then this would be 15, 30, 45, 60, and that might be the easiest way to go. So I'm just going to throw in that 3 there to represent the scale on the x-axis. Since I have changed the scale on the x-axis, I want to be clear that I did not change the scale on the y-axis. So x equals to 60 is going to put me right down here. Now this is going to make my scale, my slope a little bit tricky because my scale is not the same on both axes. If I want to think about what's my slope, I could try to solve this equation for y. If I have x plus 12y equals 60, I subtract the x from each side and divide both sides by 12. I can see that y is equal to negative 1/12 x plus 60. So I would go down 1 y for every 12 x's. In other words, each song is equivalent, each movie is equivalent to 12 songs. So that's basically how my scale is going to work. It's hard for me to do that a little bit because my scale is different. I have to be careful. I can go down 1, but if I'm going over 12, that's actually only 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, because of our scale. So down 1 over 4, down 1 over 4, down 1 over 4, and notice that lands me right on the 60, so I know I used my scale correctly. So there's my line. Any whole numbered combination along that line is something that's an option for me for what I could purchase. It says, what if I purchase only songs? So that's no movies. So only songs would give me 60 songs and no movies. Next question was, what if you only purchase movies? Okay, only movies. Well, that's our y-intercept. If I purchase 5 movies, I can't have any songs. Next, they said, what are 3 possible combinations of songs and movies? Okay, well, we've already mentioned 2, but even just looking right along here, we can see 3 other combinations, like 12 songs, and this was 1, 2, 3, 4 movies. Or that's 18, 21, 24. 24 songs and 3 movies. Or this one here, which is 36 songs and 2 movies. So any of those whole numbered points along the line would satisfy the problem.